Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of One More Glass of Wine. I am Jeremy Marskok, your host, and today we are joined by Elizabeth Meyer from D'Aria Winery. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
It's actually nice to see you again. For all our listeners, Libby, sorry, I should actually clarify that. Her nickname is Libby, and she's giving me eyes. Do we call you Libby or Elizabeth these days?
It's that bombastic side-eye.
Bombastic side-eye.
Libby or Elizabeth is fine.
Okay, cool. No, we'll call you Libby. She actually worked a little bit with us here at Waterford. She did a stellar job. She's an amazing winemaker. She's going to do some amazing things in the future. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you.
Yeah, so you've just now moved to D'Aria. You're taking care of vineyards and you're doing the winemaking side of things. How was your first harvest?
Yeah, so I started at D'Aria in January of this year, got thrown into the deep end a little bit, ending up taking care of the vineyards as well as the cellar, as you mentioned. Luckily, that will change soon. I'm getting a bit of a foreman.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Helping hand.
To come and assist her out or help me out with the vineyard side of things. But things went really well. We had a quite rough season. It was a lot of load shedding, a lot of issues with regards to that, as we all know. But then we also had quite a wet season and already having to get used to a new cellar, new vineyards, new products to produce. And on top of that, have a funny weather. It wasn't the easiest harvest, but it was definitely one for the books.
Okay, cool. Well, congratulations on surviving it. I know that harvest time is intense as can be, and learning a whole new place is incredibly difficult. So congratulations.
Thanks.
How did the wines turn out?
I only just released my maiden vintage wines, so the Sauvignon Blanc and Blush have been bottled and released, and they're looking stellar. I'm really excited about it. Very keen to do Harvest 2024 with a bit more insight into the vines, but having dropped into the deep end and swam out to the other side, I'm very, very excited about what they look or how they look like, and excited to
where
share.
they're going. Brilliant. That's amazing.
The reds are still in tank and in barrel, so that's a discussion for a whole other day.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back on the podcast in the next year or two to talk about your main vintage reds. Well, again, congratulations. So, I mean, stepping into a winery and taking over vineyards and the winemaking and all these things that you have to do and manage when you are in that position, it takes a lot of guts, but I think experience also helps a lot. Could you let us know a little bit of your history in the wine industry that has prepared you for where you are today?
I studied a BSc in viticulture and enology at the University of Stellenbosch. As part of my final year, my first vintage, I did a harvest at Dalheim in Stellenbosch. After that, after graduating, I did a harvest at the Grendel in Durbanville, and then I spread my wings and took off to Napa in California, where I did a harvest there. Came back as the assistant winemaker of Meerlist, and after that, I jumped around a little bit here inside the Golden Triangle, where I was involved at Eikendal, Alti, and then I was at Waterford, as you know, before starting my journey at D'Aria.
Okay, so you've done a bit of work in a Durbanville-based winery before. So did that help you in any way in what you're doing today?
Yeah, well, my first harvest after studying was at the Grendel in Durbanville, and it did definitely help to have someone to call on for this vintage. Charles Hopkins is the winemaker, is the cellar master there, is a major role model, and it's been nice to be close enough to phone a friend if it's necessary. Yeah.
Okay, that's very cool. And what would you say is something that you've learned from the vineyards that you've worked at past that has kind of stood you in best stead? Is there any one thing that you can point out from your experience that has stood you in best stead for this new challenge of this new winery and the new vintage and everything?
Well, I think my time that I spent at Meerlist was the most beneficial. I had the opportunity to start in January of 2020, where I was involved with the decisions that were made of when the grapes would be ripe for picking. And after that vintage, we continued on into vintage 2021, where I was again involved. And seeing the vineyards change and everything that was involved during the growing season, being able to compare the grapes from 2020 versus 2021 from the same vineyard, having the insights of what actually happened in the vineyards, gave me a really nice outline of what to expect and what to be looking out for during harvest at D'Aria.
Okay, brilliant. Very cool. Well, I didn't sneakily open this bottle of wine. It was quite blatant.
We all heard you, Jeremy.
So what we've got open here today is our Kevin Arnold Shiraz. So a nice wine for us to taste. Do you guys do Shiraz at D'Aria?
We do. We do have... Oh, a hiccup. We have... it's the excitement for the wine. We have D'Aria Shiraz. It's actually our latest vintage has just been released. It's a 2022 for those that wanted to know, and it's a Shiraz with a little bit of Viognier in the blend. We add the Viognier. It's kind of a staple, something that D'Aria has been doing for quite some time, but the Viognier is added just to enhance the fruity side of the Shiraz. So it's quite different. I know the Kevin Arnold Shiraz, so it's quite different in style. It's a much lighter wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 2018 vintage. You were here since we've been on the 2018 vintage.
Yes.
Okay, very cool.
Well, I haven't tasted it though.
You haven't tasted it?
No. I
okay.
haven't.
Then I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit and ask you a little bit for a tasting note here.
Okay, cool.
So
cool,
give
cool.
us a swirl and a sniff and let us know what you think.
Well, I'm going to say it's a red wine. I'm joking.
Spot on. You're not wrong there. I quite enjoy our take on a Shiraz, and that it's leaning more on the Syrah style or side of things, where it's a little bit softer, a little bit more fruit orientated, rather than hitting you with a whole bunch of ripe, intense spice. It comes across as a little bit more of a baking spice to me. What do you think?
A baking spice.
Like a baking spice, yes.
Like something you'd use in a banana bread, like baking.
More like a cinnamon kind of aspect or something like that. Teasing my tasting notes.
Sorry. No, well, I think it's a very well-balanced wine. The wine is quite fruit-forward on the aromatic side of things. Only once you actually taste the wine do you pick up a lot of those varietal characteristics that are well-known for Shiraz, like the pepperiness that you'd expect. As you mentioned, the spiciness, I'd also say it's got a lot of different complex aromas and flavors that add to the wine and build the wine. It's quite nice just sitting here and having it mull over on my palate, how it kind of changes and still is evolving and lingers on the palate even after a while.
Yeah,
there's no spittoon, so
no. We don't spit our wine out on One More Glass of Wine podcast. We definitely don't do any of that. But yeah, thank you for sharing a glass of wine with me on the podcast. So you recently were just nominated to be in the Winelands Media 30 Under 30. It is a brilliant achievement to be noticed and recognized for that. For those of you who don't know what that is, Elizabeth was in the top 30 people under 30 that are making an impression, waves, whatever you would like to call it, in the South African winelands. So congratulations, Libby. How was it winning that award or that recognition?
Thanks, Jem. No, it was... Oh, I just called you Jem. Yeah, next to the Jem barrels. It was quite intense. No, it was a great honor. First of all, I think a few people's eyes got quite wide when they noticed or realized that the winemaker of D'Aria is only 26 years young. So it gave me away a little bit. But it made me quite proud of what I've been through and where I've ended up. So yeah, it's not always that you get recognized in the field that you're in. And I feel very honored that we have this thing or this what would you call it? it's not a competition.
This recognition.
This
I guess,
recognition, that Wineland and Rotacon have gone out of their way and actually are investing into the young up-and-coming people in our industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of familiar faces at the event, I'm sure. It was nice to see some people there that you might have studied with or worked alongside, or anyone new that you didn't expect there.
Yeah, I was one of 3 of my classmates that were there. I know Waterford's tasting room manager.
Yeah, Steph Water,
Steph,
she was there.
She wasn't here when I was working here, but I met her at the event, and it's so nice to be able to touch base with people in the industry that are kind of, definitely in your same age category, but going through the same things. Being an up-and-comer in industry is hard. You can very easily just become one of the crowd, and it's nice to have someone that you can kind of link up with and touch base on where everyone's at, what's happening in the industry, and where you should be focusing towards.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. Any new ideas that you got from anyone out there? Are you stealing any winemaking tips for the future vintage?
No.
It's all a secret.
Not stealing anything.
No, it's all a secret.
We'll just borrow. No, I did meet 2 wonderful people that are actually not part of the Winelands 30 Under 30, but they were recognized within the Rotacon label challenge. 2 label designers or graphic designers that designed labels that won, and it was just very inspiring seeing their work also. I've got both of them on Instagram, so I'll definitely hit them up. Maybe release an interesting label or something.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's actually, a brilliant topic to bring up. There's so many aspects that make the wine industry go round, and everyone from viticulture to winemaker to bottles to labels, it's all incredibly important. So that's very cool that there's recognition even on that side of things, the graphic design side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I'm going to put you a bit on the spot here. You are on a Waterford podcast here. Tell me, what did you learn in your time, with your time in our cellar here? Anything that you take away as something that you'll implement in your cellar now?
Well, I think one of the things that definitely made my eyes open towards what is involved in the role of a winemaker is being able to see where Mark's involvement is in the company. Obviously, he's not just the winemaker, cellar master, and COO. He's also COO. So that gave me a lot more insight than I had into the business aspects of wine that I didn't necessarily take into account at my previous positions. And I think one thing that I would definitely take away on the winemaking side of things, Mark's spoken to me about it quite a few times, and it's come up in conversation in the office quite a bit, was definitely his perception in pH and TAs in wine. So I think that's something that kind of I definitely took into this harvest. And just the extremely let's say pristine cellar conditions that Waterford has. So,
okay. Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. That's so cool. And thanks for calling our cellar pristine.
Took me a while to get the name. Word.
Wonderful, man. And then now, any role models that you are carrying with you, anyone that you're looking up to that's helping you build the confidence for your career? Is there anyone that you'd name by name?
Well, there'd be a few mentionable people. I think being in the position that I'm in now, there's so many more aspects that I'm involved in that I didn't necessarily expect to be involved in. On the business side of things, Tanika Rinachos, if I can call her that, who's the GM at Kleine Zalze. She's just a formidable woman. I hope that's the right word. I think it is. A formidable woman, and it's amazing to just look into her journey and see where she's been and what she's grown towards. On the wine side of things, I'll always have a sweet spot for Charles Hopkins. He's definitely he's a big part of my winemaking journey.
Okay. So, amazing. That's wonderful. And now,
Ach, Jeremy, also obviously a role
am
model,
I a role model? That's very
PR
kind of you.
stunts.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah.
But now your future, Livy, what do you see for yourself? What are your goals, your vision for future Elizabeth? Where would you like to land up one day?
Well, as you know, I do have a puppy now, so
Oh yeah, well, Chase, nice,
Chase.
cute, very cute little dog.
Chase has definitely grounded me in a few ways. So a lot of my dreams are local at the moment.
Very cool.
I'm very keen to be part of D'Aria for quite some time, and yeah, I just think if I have to think of, I don't know, in a long time from now, well, a fairy tale land situation. I'd probably end up in Austria someday.
Okay.
Hopefully, yeah.
Skiing on the slopes, they also make wine there, so they'll need people like you.
Skiing, I actually had the opportunity to taste a few Austrian Sauvignon Blancs, and since I'm in Durbanville, now I'm involved with a lot of Sauvignon Blanc-y things, and so it was really great to taste that Sauvignon Blanc and just see the similarities that region has to offer. I only visited it briefly as a tourist in 2016, 2017, but it is a stunning area, and yeah, I'd love to live there, work there, try and ski there.
Okay, incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, I love the long-term goals, and I love that you say you love South Africa and you're enjoying your time at D'Aria, and you're thinking quite local, and that's something I think our South African wine industry is booming quite nicely. I think people are realizing we make some incredible wines in our country. The tourism is increasing. We're seeing a lot of international investment in the country, which is all really exciting things to be a part of. So we need skilled people like yourself to continue to make the excellent wine that we enjoy today. So that's a good job that you're going to stay. Thank you very much.
Excellent wine. You haven't even tasted my wine, but it's excellent.
I've had one or two tasters of D'Aria, but before your wine. That's true. Yeah. And now let's look back into the past of Elizabeth. How did you actually get into wine?
Oh my goodness, it's a long story.
It's a long story.
There are a few keynotes that were mentioned in the Winelands article that I probably shouldn't have ever said out loud because it's horrendous.
Okay.
But I actually was born and grew up in Bethel in Mpumalanga, a long way away from any types of grapes or vineyards. Definitely wasn't involved with any kind of winemaking then. We moved down to Struisbaai when I was at the end of my grade 9 years. So I started grade 10 at Fredorstop High School. Fredorstop High School, and it was actually through being in that school, one of the girls that was in my class, they actually owned a vineyard just outside of Bredasdorp towards Elim, and the first thing that attracted me to wine was actually the vineyard rows that were so perfectly symmetrical.
Okay. Didn't pick you for an OCD type?
No, it's not necessarily OCD, but if a line has to be straight, it has to be straight.
It has to be straight. I get you.
So that was actually the first thing. My parents don't drink. My father only just recently decided to start drinking some red wine, so he's
taken on the good stuff.
He's taken a bottle of 2 of my reds. It's becoming a problem. And after that, I actually applied to start studying viticulture and oenology with the intention of using it as a bridge to another degree that I actually wanted to go into. But I got hooked.
Okay.
I didn't get hooked to the wine like most people would. It was the lifestyle that came with it, the fact that the industry opened up internationally. It's something that I can do with the same degree. I can have the same job in South Africa or just about anywhere else in the world, if I can understand what they're saying.
The language barrier.
If I can communicate, the fact that it really opened up a lot of opportunities to delve into different parts of myself. I'm not very artistic, but I do enjoy having some artistic expression. It's a little bit businessy, a little bit artsy.
Okay.
I can hide myself in the cellar, or I can go and be outside in the vineyards, or I'm with a tasting saying or chatting to tons of people. So it's just, there's a lot of aspects in wine that drew me to it.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
I love how you mentioned the tasting aspect and being in the tasting room.
Yeah.
How are you feeling presenting wines that you've created to, just call it tourists, all the way up to wine critiques? How's that feel when you're doing that?
Look, I think getting critiqued is always nerve-wracking. I enjoy a challenge, so getting critiqued is just another challenge for me. It's something that I like to take on in my stride. I know, luckily, wine isn't made to suit all palates.
For sure.
Otherwise, I'd definitely be out of a job, and we'd only have one cellar and one winemaker, and just gigantic volumes of stuff that tastes the same. So I enjoy the critique that comes from tastings. I have noticed, though, that people are a lot more reserved commenting on the wine. If it's your wine that you're pouring,
okay.
they tend to be very, very nice about it. So it's either that my wines are really, really nice, or they're just
I think you do a good job.
decent.
I think you make nice wines. That's what I think.
So I do enjoy it. It's cool to be able to get feedback on something that I put a lot of work into. Well, not just myself, my whole team really poured themselves into this vintage, and it's really nice to get feedback on that.
Okay, brilliant.
So, Jeremy, as I mentioned, I do have a bit of a surprise here for you today.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'd love to have you critique some fruits of my labor.
Critique, okay.
Yeah, so let me just reach into my little bag here.
What have you got for us?
Ta-da!
Okay. Oh, you brought some wine.
I brought a bottle of D'Aria's 2023 blush.
Oh, brilliant. We're going to need some glasses.
Well, yes, please, if you have there. So in the past, the blush, or D'Aria's blush, used to be a Sauvignon Blanc Merlot, but I've changed things up a little bit this year. So it's actually a blended wine. Okay. It's got components of Sauvignon Blanc in, but then there are three interesting blend components that we've added. It's a rosé of Cab Sauv, Grenache, and Carignan, which is not really a very well-known grape varietal.
Spanish. If I'm not, I think it's Spanish,
Well, so I changed the blush up a little bit. So I'd love you to have a taste.
Alrighty.
This
is so exciting.
Be the first person outside of the D'Aria tasting room to be tasting this today.
Oh my word, that's so exciting.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of a pour. You see, when was the last time I worked in a tasting room? There we go. So
still got it.
Yeah, so it's a very light pink color. It's kind of, a few people have said it looks kind of a little bit rose gold if the sun hits it in the right way.
All right.
So I just wanted to bring that for you to taste, critique. Give me your tasting notes.
Oh, wow. Oh, putting me on the spot here. That's my job. That's why I sit on this side of the table. That is a really enjoyable blush rosé. It's got a really nice acidity in it, but it finishes quite nice and sweet, which I think that makes it really pairable with a lot of things. There's a little bit of salinity coming through in the back palate there, but I'm not too sure what Carignan would add necessarily. Not that I've drunk Carignan before. But it's very interesting that you're able to achieve this with a Cabernet Sauvignon in the mix there. I think that's really enjoyable.
Yeah, so the Cab Sauv makes up about 33% of the blend, as well as the Sauvignon Blanc, and then the Grenache and Carignan is about 17% each to make up the blend.
I feel like you can smell a fair amount of a Sauvignon. It's a little bit grassy almost on the nose. Yeah,
so we also actually used white cultivar yeasts on the red cultivars when we made it as a rosé, with the intention of getting lighter fruit, tropical style aromatics. So it's supposed to be a kind of a nice fruit salad.
Almost like a fruit salad. All right.
Yeah, it's completely dry, so the sweetness is just a perception on your palate. It's got like a 1.7 grams per liter RS, which is dry.
See, I told you not to put me on the spot.
No.
I would love to drink that at like a picnic.
Yeah.
It's definitely a picnic sitting in the sun kind of wine. And the alcohol percentage?
It's quite high. It's 13.5.
All right. Okay. So it is quite a serious.
It's quite a beefy
rosé.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for bringing that and sharing that with us,
That's such a
Libby.
pleasure.
That's
I
so
hope
cool.
you enjoyed.
Yeah. 2023. This is completely your vintage.
It is. It's my maiden vintage. So other than the blush, there's also a Sauvignon Blanc available.
Okay.
Yeah, and then next year will be the reds.
So, Libby, tell me. Maybe a bit of a philosophical question here, but if there was one wine in the world that you could make, which wine would it be?
So it's definitely a more emotional response other than a strategic one. If there's one wine I'd love to make, it would be a wine that my parents actually enjoy drinking. So like I mentioned earlier, my parents aren't really drinkers. My dad will try his hand on a few red wines, but that's just a glass every second week. But I'd love to produce a wine that they'd actually enjoy so that I can pour it for them.
I think that's actually a brilliant look into your personality and who you are. And I think that's incredibly sweet.
Oh man, you're making me want to.
Oh, that's incredibly sweet, Elizabeth. Well, that's a brilliant answer. That's one of the best answers that I think we'll ever have to that question. So
cute.
Congratulations. You get another cheers with your amazing
Cheers.
wine. Well, Libby, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
It feels like I should have more wine.
I feel like you should have a sip of your wine. But yeah, you're a brilliant young individual in this industry, and I think you've got a lot of heart and a lot of great ideas, and I think you're going to do incredibly well. So keep up the great work, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jerry. Cheers.
Cheers.